This right here is the difference between Cyrus and Jacinto. Cyrus has a 4-page manuscript. Jacinto has been writing in his head.
Yeah, this whole process, oh wow, like it's actually happening.
Be yourself.
Wow. So yeah, like Pastor said, this is very indicative of who we are, and I love that I get to be confirmed with Cyrus because in so many ways we're different and in so many ways we're alike. So I first actually want to start by acknowledging this minor miracle that I have family in church today. I definitely know that my mom never imagined this day. And I know my grandma secretly was wishing for this day. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm pretty quiet. And I think that leads to people to think that I'm kind of introspective and quiet. And those who have known me for longer know that quietness doesn't mean a quiet mind. I definitely have a lot to say. So for me, faith, when I think of how I got here, I think of when I was little. I was raised, you could say, in a secular manner, and in other ways, I was raised to see God everywhere. My first teachers of God, although they didn't know it, were my parents. And it's really funny because, kind of like Cyrus, Christianity was, at least in your later years, you got to be exposed to Christians historically. And for me, I had no other frame of reference for Christianity. So much like my mother, I'd never thought I'd be a Christian. But secretly, I guess not secretly, but we'll get to that later. Underneath the surface, I was being molded into a Christian without knowing. When I was young, my parents would work a lot. And so while they were working, I would be taken care of by a babysitter. This woman had a family of 4 children and a husband who was taking multiple medications. So she was the pillar of this family. And she took care of me like a 5th child. And in fact, she took care of many children. I remember 2 children who were my age. So at least while I was there, she had 7 kids. And I remember this one thing that I used to do all the time, and I used to get in trouble for it. I think that's why I remember it so much. I would go to her house, and as a kid, you want to watch cartoons and hang out, and you eat good food and then take a nap, But I noticed at the door there's this little thing hanging, and I was about this tall. So as a child, you see something up there, you want to know what that is. So what you do is you reach. And what I did was I reached, and it was like a cup. And on the tips of my fingers, I could feel water. And it was a little container of holy water that was at the front of the door. And I didn't realize that till I was much older. And I used to play with it. And so yeah, I spilled holy water, and I didn't know why. I was just why is there water up here? Funny parallels like that in my life I've noticed when looking back. This woman was central to who I am today. A pillar of love. She served everyone with a smile. Her name was Avelina Alvarez. Parallel to that, I had parents who, like I said, worked all the time. And these weren't menial jobs that they were grinding out. These were jobs that they made as a mission. My mother is an educator, and when I was young and before I was born, she was a teacher. And ever since, she's been a principal in Oakland. And growing up in the school district, I can see that to be someone who works with children for so long in such harsh conditions means only that you love kids. My father, actually, my father, for most of my life, worked as an activist for immigrant and refugee rights. And strangely enough, for most of that time, he worked across the street. There's this place called the National Network for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. So I grew up with parents who devoted their lives to protecting and loving others who didn't get the fair shake. So fast forward a few years, maybe a lot more than a few years. It was summer of 2010, I think. I was looking for a summer job. I just graduated from high school, and I was on this whole time in my life where I was really big on reading and English and writing. And someone from high school had, passed forward this job application, tutor English, Chinatown, during the summer. I was like, yeah, I can do that. I've been around kids, I love reading, and I think I'd be able to teach that passion. So I park over there by the freeway, and I walk up this side, and I walk around the corner, and I see a screen door and a brick wall. And I walk in, and I walk into the annex across the way. I walk to the back, and there's these two women at a table. One is Christine Lee, who's the director of the after-school program and summer program, and the other is Emily Lynn, who introduced herself as a pastor. I didn't know that I walked into a church. But I'm typically open to new experiences. I was very wary, to say the least. I was dressed very similarly to how you see now, which is not how I dress all the time. So, I tried really hard to play the part of the teacher, and to good effect. I think some people thought I was like 30. Yeah, and I got to work with kids whose second language was also English, like me, who really grew up in a place where they were kind of in between cultures. And I know to you I sound very American. I have a very European face. And I grew up speaking Spanish, but to Spanish-speaking people, I looked white. And to white people, I did not look white. So I was very much in the margin. So I could relate to these kids. And I got to teach them, and they got to teach me. I got to learn some Chinese, both Cantonese and Mandarin. And it was great. It was a great summer. And how the day worked out was I would come in the morning, and I'd leave at around 2. And at 2 o'clock, they would start a VBS, a Vacation Bible Study. And at first, I was just like, I really don't go to church. I shouldn't stay. I'm just going to get in the way. But then I see what these kids are doing. They're bringing back art the day after. They're talking about it, and I just want to see what this was all about. So after I got off of work, I came back here with the kids. They meet in the sanctuary, and what happens is there's a show. There's this big performance, and these silly, both youngsters and elders getting up here singing, dancing, acting, and really teaching love through the Bible. Now, I'm a terrible singer, and I don't I get physically uncomfortable on stage. And so I was just I was literally sitting in the last pew. The kids were in the first 3, so I was more like an observer. I was then invited to go into these smaller groups where they worked with the different age groups. And I kind of helped, but I didn't really want to take on a teacher role because, I was not really, I still am not up to speed with the Bible. I have a lot to learn. But I saw something there. I saw a learning and a love and a two-way street. So then I started going to church. And I met people, and I met people not like me. And yet, I met people who were totally like me. For me, being a Latino in a Chinese church, it's really, I don't know how to put it. Yeah, I get to sing in Spanish when they have Spanish songs. But it was really something for me to be able to learn another way to live, and to see that, and to be a part of it. And so I came back 2 years in a row, and I will probably come back again this summer. So a couple years ago, after I started going to church, I started meeting with a youth group. And we did something similar to this, where we shared our faith story. And around that time, the woman who had taken care of me had passed away. And for me, at least in my childhood, the only times I would ever go to church were for baptisms and funerals. And so I went to the funeral, and this was not my first funeral. But for the first time ever, I got to talk. I got to talk to family, and I can call them my family. And there's the usual crying and embracing, but there was something new that time. There was laughter. There was love. I had felt a death, not only outside of me, but in me. And yet, I had felt a place where I was alive. During the regular school year, I work at an elementary and middle school. And a few months after that, I had heard that I'd be working with her grandson. And I'd felt a resurrection. Our lives are so interconnected. And I can only see that in hindsight. Our loves extend far beyond us. And I can only feel that now. My faith has been slowly growing, setting off fire alarms.
Bold connotation.
Yes. I'm going to lose myself right now. So when I stand here before you, I stand here to acknowledge and to confirm my faith, that I am a Christian and that I stand for love. And not just for love of the people who are easy to love, not just my sisters and my mother and my grandmother, but for the people who need it the most. Because I was given an example, a Christian example. And I hope that I can live up to that. Thank you.